Guys, today I'm going to go a little bit off the cuff. Normally I sit around, I do a ton of research, and I put together a script for you. Today I thought that I'd just put together a quick little video talking about the election going on here in Canada and some of the hot topics that happened over the weekend. First, we're going to get into the recent Doug Ford comments where he threw shade at the Conservatives. Then I'm going to get into what's happening with the polls and the recent surge in PolyMarket, showing that we've seen a bit of a momentum twist. Then I want to get into this scandal with CBC known as ButtonGate. You're going to want to watch that. And then we'll also get into the debates and what we can expect and what would be a successful outcome for Pierre Poilievre as we walk into the debates this week. Okay, first, I want to start off. I'm going to show you guys a clip of some comments Doug Ford made today.
As for Corey, I've said right from day one, he's tough as nails, but he's the best campaign manager in the country. And to be very frank, if Corey was running that campaign, I don't think Mr. Poilievre would be in the position he's in right now. But it's still a lot of time left. And we still have debates. At the end of the day, the people will decide which way they want this country to move forward. But sometimes the truth hurts.
This is insane to me that Doug Ford's doing this. In the event that Pierre turns this thing around and wins, and there is a pretty good chance that he will, I actually think that he will, then Doug Ford has just put himself into a really bad position with the Prime Minister. I don't know why Doug Ford decided to go and open up his mouth. Now, what he's really saying is that Pierre should be running as a Liberal. If you want to get elected in Canada, well, you basically have to be a Liberal. So if you're Conservative, just act like a Liberal. And his campaign manager, Corey Tenecki, he went on CTV earlier in the week and basically said that I think that the term he used was campaign malpractice in regards to Poilievre's team and Jenny Byrne's campaign strategy, because they should have just been hammering Donald Trump the whole time to show how non-Trump like they are. And I think that that's just an insane idea, because if Pierre does that, then how's that going to look once he's elected? He's now going to have a terrible relationship with the president of the United States of America. It doesn't seem like a very good idea. It doesn't seem smart. I suppose that he might win.
We talk sometimes about campaign malpractice. Blowing a 25-point lead and being like 10 points down is campaign malpractice at the highest level.
Another thing that gets missed in all this is that everybody calls Pierre a misogynist, but he stuck with his female campaign manager when a lot of people around him were telling him to go with Corey Tenecki. It sounds like a little thing, but for somebody who's currently this huge misogynist, he put his entire campaigns in the hands of a woman. Anyways, let's move on. So on Friday, I messaged my buddy Mike and I said, Mike, I think that the election just turned, and he agreed with me. And what happened was earlier in the week, the elections watchdog came out with a report that said that there were these posts on WeChat, which is this WhatsApp/Facebook type of Chinese social media app that many Canadians have, Chinese Canadians have. And there were these posts that were promoted regarding Mark Carney. And the elections watchdog, they weren't really saying anything about whether they were positive or negative. They're not trying to influence the election, but they did provide examples. And those examples primarily showed that these posts were basically making Carney look really good, that he was the right guy to handle Trump. And then later on in the week, the Globe and Mail came out with a piece that talked about how Carney had met with the Jiangsu Commerce Council of Canada, the JCCC, who, by the way, has clear ties to China's United Front Work Department, and they answer to the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP. So Carney's asked about these pictures that the Globe and Mail came up with, and he denied meeting with them, said he had never even heard of them before. But if you went to the webpage, there's a clear write-up about how they met with Carney and they're going to work together to promote the JCCC's interest. And there was, I think, 3 or 4 photos. One of them was him in the middle of like 7 of them. So it wasn't it didn't look like it was just this quick little meeting. It looked like something that he probably would have remembered. It didn't look like a quick little selfie.
Well, I'm sorry, but you can't believe everything you read in the Globe and Mail. So in your question, and I guess in the article in question, you said I had a meeting with whatever your term was, Beijing group. I've never heard of this group, okay? Never heard of this group.
So all this happened, and then Carney paused his election campaigning, saying, I'm going to go back and work on the tariffs back in Ottawa for 3 days. The moment that happened, we knew that Carney was running scared because he doesn't like being asked tough questions. He gets agitated with reporters. He clearly doesn't like it. We got the Rosemarie Barton clip we could show. There's a handful of them now at this point. So then shortly after that, over the weekend, I kept following PolyMarket. It went from 22% to a high of 33%. It's now sitting around 31% at the time of filming. We got a poll that came in this morning from Mainstream Research that showed that the CPC was at 44% versus the Liberals 42%. Now, look, the Conservatives are probably going to have a 5 to 6 point lead in these polls to actually have any shot of like just winning a minority, because so much of the concentration is in Alberta and Saskatchewan. But the good news for Conservatives is that there is now clearly a shift in momentum. And I believe that if they can keep this up as we head into the debates later this week, it's anybody's election. Then we had ButtonGate, which is a story that if the CBC didn't report, and thank God they did, everybody would call misinformation, because that's what everybody on the left likes to say. If they disagree with what you're saying or your tone or your messaging, they don't like the facts, they're going to say misinformation. So I'm so happy the CBC came out with this story. Here's what they said. They said 2 Liberal Party staffers attended last week's Canada Strong and Free networking conference, where they planted buttons that used Trump-style language and highlighted a division within the Conservative Party. This is wild. This is wild. How did the CBC find out? Well, they found out because 2 of the staffers who were involved in doing it ended up going to a pub and bragging about it, and a CBC reporter overheard it. So they were going around and pretending that they were part of the Conservative Party, dropping off these buttons that said "Stop the Steal." And I think it's fair to assume that their hope was that these buttons would end up on social media and the Liberals would get to play it off like, hey, look, they are just like Donald Trump. Election denialism is about to happen. Look at these buttons. But then they got caught because they went and bragged about it at a pub. And if you think I'm making this up, well, here's the official statement from the Liberal Party of Canada. This is the most important election in a generation because of the historic economic crisis that is facing Canadians today. And the Liberal Party of Canada will continue to run a positive campaign focused on building Canada strong. So they're running a positive campaign. That's the first paragraph of this apology. We're great. We're so positive. Okay, ButtonGate happened, but we are so positive. Let's get into the second paragraph. After many news reports last week about Conservative infighting and prominent Trump allies being hosted at this Canadian Conservative conference. So right there, there's throwing shade at the Conservatives. Haven't gotten into the apology yet. Throwing shade at the Conservatives. It's been reported that Liberal campaigners had created buttons poking fun at those reports, which regrettably got carried away. An admission. So in the second half of that sentence, where they are trashing the Conservatives and calling them Trump-like, they admit to having actually done this. Well, it is worth noting that many materials being shown online have nothing to do with members of our team. The party has acted quickly to review the matter, as leader Mark Carney has also made it clear to the campaign that this does not fit his commitment to serious and positive discourse. Now, also, there's reports online that say that the members who were involved in ButtonGate have been reassigned. Not fired. There's no criminal investigation for pretending you are part of another party with the intent of sabotaging your opponent, which is illegal. I'll get into that in a second. They're being reassigned. No big deal. Oh, little dust it off. Dirt off your shoulders. Dirt off your shoulders. Keep going. Keep going. It's absolutely insane. And this gets me upset because I think of so many people I know that are older and they just hate Trump. Like boomers from Ontario, and I imagine most urban cities in Canada, hate Trump. They hate him. And what the Liberals have done so well is they've built up this sentiment amongst low information voters that Pierre Poilievre is Donald Trump. And if you don't think that they're prepared to play dirty to do that, then just look at ButtonGate. Look at all these liberal influencers that I imagine are getting paid on Twitter. I'm not getting paid, by the way. Before you accuse me of that, I'm not getting paid. But I wouldn't be surprised if some of these liberal influencers are, because their messaging is so on point. Pierre is mega, Maple mega. It doesn't stop. They're just constantly pushing this narrative, and it's just to really enforce that sentiment amongst low information voters, who, by the way, often make up the election. So that's why it's so important to be able to go and build up that sentiment. So I got to make a quick mention here of the Elections Act. Section 91 bans false statements to mislead voters. Section 320 requires authorization tags. Violations can mean up to $50,000 in fines and 5 years in jail. So it's clearly illegal what happened here. You're not allowed to go and pretend that you're a part of the other party with the intentions to just sabotage the other party. I don't know where this goes from here. I doubt that we're going to hear much more about it because the Liberal Party is in power and it's Canada where these things often just get swept under the rug. But this is probably one of the most dirty things that I've ever heard. And then it makes you also think like, hey, when those Nazi flags were being shown during the trucker protests, were they plants? These people that are running around with these big signs to say, do you believe in the polls? Are they real? What is sabotage here and what's real? So I think that it's fair to ask these questions, especially when you see these things happening that basically make you think, okay, I guess it's fair to think that some things are a conspiracy. Because in this case here, this was a conspiracy. Okay, I want to wrap this up by talking about the debates and what I think Pierre needs to do to basically take the election. So we got the French debate on Wednesday at 8 p.m. and the English debate on Thursday at 7 p.m. So I don't think that the entire debate really matters. What matters is you get those little clips that are going to go viral on social media. What we have seen so far is that Carney gets really agitated when he's asked about his personal assets. He can't help himself. This guy, you can tell he's got a bit of a temper, and Pierre wants to do everything he can to bring that out. I have all the confidence in the world that Pierre's going to walk into this thing fully prepared. I see him up on stage riffing about different bills. He just mentions them off the top of his head. He's clearly read them. He is a nerd. He is prepared for this. He has spent the last 20 years of his life working towards this goal, and this is his big moment. I think that Carney is somebody who hasn't even lived in Canada for the last 10 years. And I don't think that he is nearly as prepared for this. And I think that he does have temper issues. And what Pierre really needs to do is get Carney uncomfortable and get him to lash out. If he can do that, I think it's going to look great. Regardless, if he doesn't do that, I think that he has a whole history of calling out Carney on various meetings that they've had over the years. And I think that we're going to get some of those sound bites that is going to hopefully go a long way for Pierre. So I fully expect Pierre to win the debate. Carney was the worst debater at the leadership debates, and he was up against like Karina Gould and Chrystia Freeland, which weren't even really strong opponents. And he was the worst debater out of them. Still won in a landslide. So I don't think that there's any doubt that Pierre is going to win these debates. But will he be able to go and get those clips that can go viral on social media that will end up in the hands of low information voters? That's what he needs, because that's what this whole thing is about. It's about shifting the sentiment with those low information voters. And you're going to do that via tiny little clips. Justin Trudeau was very strong at that. And Pierre is going to have to find a way to make that happen. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I'm really excited about these debates. I'm probably going to stay up late making content for you guys so you guys can know my thoughts the next day. Guys, I normally don't make videos like these where I just kind of talk off the cuff. I get particular about how I say things. I want to make sure that I'm not saying things that are untrue. In this case here, I've just thought I'd just talk off the cuff about what's happened over the weekend And hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. And I'll get back to our regular scheduled programming tomorrow. If you enjoyed this video, do me a favor, smash that like button, subscribe, ring that notification bell. Also, guys, let me know what you think. You think that Pierre has shifted the momentum? You think that Pierre can still win this thing? Do you even want Pierre to win? I don't know why you're watching me if you don't, but that's fine. I try to be somewhat in the middle. All right, everybody. Thank you for watching.